So one of the most common scales to learn after you've learned major and minor and even pentatonic and all the modes is the whole tone scale. The whole tone scale. Okay, and the whole tone scale is kind of explanatory, self-explanatory in the fact that it just uses whole tones or whole steps. Okay, so if you use your whole step pattern, it would be just whole step, whole step, whole step, whole step, whole step, and one more whole step. If you want to do the math, you simply take this. This is 2 half steps, 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, all the way through, is a total of 12. Okay, and 12 is how you can make a full scale from note to note, from tonic to tonic. Okay, so if you were to start on C, you would have C, and then up a whole step would be D, up a whole step would be E, up another whole step is F sharp, up another whole step is G sharp, up another whole step is A sharp, and finally one more whole step is C. Okay, so here's all your notes in a whole tone scale. If you were to use sharps and you start on C, it would probably look like this. So let's go ahead and see this on the staff. All you have to do is write C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, and finally C. Okay, so that's one way to write a whole tone scale. Now, there's only a few different varieties of whole tone scales because it's very symmetrical. You can cut it here, start on F sharp, and keep getting the same scale generated, for example. Okay, so even if we were to start on like F sharp, you would have the same notes, F, G sharp, A sharp, and then go up to C, because why use B sharp when you can use C in this case, D, E, and then end on F sharp. Okay, so if you were to do this, you would have the same subset of notes. Okay, so let's go ahead and see a couple more different variations of this. One example is you can use flats instead. So instead of using the sharps, you could use flats. Okay, so you got C, D, E, G flat. We skip here instead. So here's our skip of a note. We don't have any F in this version. We got A flat, B flat, and then finally C again. Okay, again, we have whole steps and whole steps. These two scales sound identical, right? It's just a matter of what you want to use to write them. Do you want to use sharps or do you want to use flats? Okay, so because there's only 12 notes in a scale, or in the chromatic scale, and you're using 6 of them here, and it's equidistant and everything, it doesn't take too much effort to realize that there are only 2 variations. So there's this one and there's another one where you start on C sharp, or you start on D flat. Oops, just this. Okay, you can start on D flat instead. If you do this, you get 2 different scales that will be, again, equal to each other, just like this. Okay, so let's go ahead and get one more color here, and we'll start writing these. So this is C sharp, going up a whole step is D sharp, going up a whole step is F, just F, and then we got G, A, B, and again, that C sharp on top. Okay. Now, if you were to start on a flat instead, maybe I'll just use yellow for this one. If you start on a flat instead, you would just name these enharmonically. So you have D flat, E flat, and then go to F, G, A, B, and finally the D flat up here, where you skip this note there. Okay, you skip that space just like you skip this line. Just like you skip this line, just like you skip this space, okay? Skipping is not a bad thing here because we only have 6 notes in our scale. This is our 7, but it's technically our 1 again. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 before the pattern repeats, okay? So you're going to skip a letter if you use A through G. Cool. Okay, so if you were to start on any other letter on the piano, you would end up with one of these variations, one of these 4. Usually. Okay, so now let's look at key signatures, because there are key signatures for these, which is really cool. We learned all the other key signatures where you have to do fat cats, go down, and everything like that, and then for the flats you'd have to go B, E, A, D. Now you can still use those if you want, but trying to fit a whole tone scale into that is very difficult. So they've kind of made official key signatures for whole tone scales. I've seen these in print. They're not super common, so if you don't see them all the time for a whole tone piece, don't be surprised. But they might become more popular, especially if more people start doing it. Hint, hint. Okay, so if you wanted to do this one, you have F, G sharp, and A sharp. So you simply write them here: F, G sharp, and A sharp. Okay, so that's one way to write this scale here. And then you simply would write your notes in here. Maybe you can start on C, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. or not even a B, right? And then just a C. Okay, so that would be your scale. These would be equivalent then, right? Now, the nice thing about this key signature is if you look at it, it doesn't look like what we learned before with fat cats go down, right? So it's super obvious that this is a different kind of scale, maybe one that needs a little bit more attention. You can be like, oh, what is that? Oh yeah, that's a whole tone scale. Okay, let's go ahead and do this one with 3 flats. The same thing. You just flat your G, your A, and your B. Okay, so it'd be the same thing. Maybe you have a different clef or something, so it might be good to reinstate that. Okay, if you were to do this one here, let me go ahead and use that pink color. You simply have C sharp and D sharp, so you could write them up here. C sharp and D sharp. Again, we can use the treble clef. And then finally, we have this one down here with D flat and E flat. Again, you could write it like this. Okay, so here you have 4 different key signatures. They look radically different from anything that we've been doing with major and minor related keys. And it makes it a lot easier to know that if you're in one of these keys, if you see one of these things, you know you're in a whole tone scale. Okay, so that's the whole tone scale. Let me go ahead and play this before we finish off. So I will play it starting on C. I will be playing either one of these two, whatever you want to follow along. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so that is the whole tone scale.